are you feeling about your Steelers Super Bowl bet?
Not good, but there's an easy fix.
What's that?
Fire the offensive coordinator.
Well, you and 80,000 other people wanted that to happen yesterday.
What's the population in Pittsburgh? Because I am joining whoever those people are to fire Matt Canada. And I don't know. I guess I underestimated it. What happened was they were amazing in preseason on offense. And I knew I was reading so much about them. I'm like, well, Matt Canada has not been trustworthy. But, man, he is letting everyone down. I can't believe some of the plays they ran last night. They were shocking.
It's
felt like me playing Madden, but drunk.
Do they feel like, does football go just side to side for the Steelers and not up and down the field? Because you need more plays going down the field. And right now, we can talk about the game plan. And listen, they end up winning the game behind 2 defensive touchdowns, really. The offense went into the fourth quarter trailing by 3 and finished the quarter with -4 yards. I mean, this is just not winning football, but they get bailed out because the defense was so good. And also the Browns lost their, turns out, best offensive player was Nick Chubb, not Deshaun Watson last night.
Well, listen, the Steelers didn't even give themselves a chance. How many running yards did they have in the first half? Like 2 or something?
I think they finished the game with like 55. I mean, nothing.
All of which was on 2 carries by Najee Harris.
Yep.
Then Matt Canada decided to do a sweep with Calvin Austin that killed all that momentum. There's something very, very wrong with this offense. And I know what you want to do. You want to blame my guy, Kenny Pickett, second-year quarterback. Or maybe, I don't know that you want to do that. But explain to me, it's 3rd and 2. Instead of handing the ball off, you drop back, and the Browns have nothing to lose, and they just blitz the entire team.
Yep.
He never had a chance. He had no chance to ever sit in the pocket and throw the ball.
Okay, so Kenny Pickett is not being helped by his offensive coordinator. Obviously, Matt Canada, the fans are chanting "Fire Canada" last night on Monday Night Football. I mean, as embarrassing as it gets, right? But here's the thing about Pickett. It's looking really, really bad for him through the first 2 games. Looked it up a little bit, not just looking like a sophomore slump, but looking well below average. Now, our friends over at Pro Football Focus do a quarterback ranking after every week. As far as being a passer, Kenny Pickett, his passer grade on Pro Football Focus is 31 out of 32.
Okay.
They're saying Zach Wilson is a better quarterback right now in terms of passing than Kenny Pickett. I mean, that's got to be alarming for a guy who is your first-round pick, who started to come on at the end of last season, again, behind a robust run game. But you're hoping for a step forward where through the first 2 weeks of the season, it's looking a little bit more like a sophomore slump. That's how we're trending after 2 weeks.
I don't see it that way at all. They started out with San Francisco with no game plan to stop that incredible pass rush. And then last night, Cleveland's defense is just stacked. Before the injuries, they were even more stacked. Look who Kenny Pickett has next. At the Raiders, at the Texans, whose defense has been very disappointing. The Colts just shredded them. Then they have the Ravens, who are really an unknown on defense, and at the Rams. You think Kenny Pickett's going to be 31 after that 4-game stretch?
I hope not.
Hope not. There's no way. First of all, he wasn't even that bad last night. He was 15 for 30, 222 yards, 1 pick, 1 touchdown.
15 for 30 is not good at all.
How many of them were just throwaways because he was about to get clobbered?
Okay, but I think
10 of his best passes were throwing it to the sideline because there were 7 pass rushers on him.
Yeah, he threw to the sideline a lot. But also, he got most of his yards on a George Pickens catch and run that was 71 yards. I mean, his total yardage is deceiving there because so much came on that one play. He
was moving the ball, and then it would be 3rd and 1, and Matt Canada would call some insane play. Especially the very end, Canada called a play that the whole fan base almost revolted. All they needed was 1 yard to seal the win, and he called this bizarre quarterback draw that made no sense. No, I think Pickett's fine. I think he's going to up his numbers big time. San Francisco, you admit, they're ferocious.
Of course.
I put Cleveland in that category.
Cleveland is a very good defense.
They're really good. And Garrett wasn't even that.
But Pittsburgh is a good defense, too.
If he had to face his own squad, he'd get killed, too. I just think that this has been a function of the 2 teams he's played. And listen, the Steelers at least got the win. They're 1-1. The sky is not falling. The schedule gets much easier. They don't look good on offense. I totally agree with that. But that's because they won't run the ball. They just refuse to.
Okay, there's another part of this. You're right, won't run the ball. Also, as much as we love Najee Harris and he's come on the show and all of that, he doesn't look that great.
He had 2 runs there that were awesome.
Jaylen Warren is just the better back.
Yeah, but then again, how long will he last? I'm not so down on Najee Harris, mainly because he was such a good interview.
Well, you can't let your personal emotions cloud your analysis here. Here's the other thing. This is where I feel for the Pittsburgh Steelers fans, because it's not just the 2 games here against 2 defenses. They've wanted no part of offensive coordinator Matt Canada for the last 2 years. It was the end of Roethlisberger. His first year is like, oh, well, this is Roethlisberger. He's old. Then it's Kenny Pickett as a rookie. Okay, well, Kenny Pickett's just young. Well, now it's year 3, and it's like, guy, when are you going to start throwing the ball downfield and becoming a more dynamic and explosive offense? And the Steelers. What's the one thing about Steelers and coaching staffs? I'm not saying that Mike Tomlin never makes changes, but not midseason they're not making a change. Wouldn't you? To steal a line from Chevy Chase, I would be more shocked if I woke up with my head sewn to the carpet than if somehow Mike Tomlin fired his offensive coordinator in the middle of the season. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I don't think anybody fires their offensive coordinator, really, unless you're like 2-9.
You take back play calling responsibilities. Yeah. You can move it around a little, but Tomlin isn't an offensive guy.
It's kind of hard because they'll probably have a decent record. I don't see any situation where they're getting rid of Matt Canada. It's been 37 straight games where they've failed to get 400 yards of total offense.
That's wild.
That's going back
this
3.
NFL.
That's why I don't blame Pickett. That's why I blame Canada, because it goes back 3 quarterbacks that he's kind of ruined. But I don't need an explosive pass game. The Browns were selling out to rush the quarterback last night. Just run the ball. They could have run at will and salted that game away.
Well,
I think they're poorly coached on offense.
You're right, and that's also why the preseason numbers were especially deceiving, because they were not the teams and defenses, even when they were playing backups or even when they were playing the Bills starters, whatever. Teams were not like loading up to try to get into Kenny Pickett, and now you're seeing what they are doing, and they are trying to make him uncomfortable. And Pickett isn't a runner. Like, he can move a little bit, but he's not a running quarterback.
Not at all. That is a little bit of a downside on him. I think his numbers are going to pick right up the next several weeks. I think he's going to right the ship. Honestly, the next 4 defenses he sees are going to look so pedestrian. Last night the Browns were flying around. They were just all after him, and he looked better. You will agree, it's a step up from week 1 to week 2 at least. Week 1 against the Niners.
Week 1 was god-awful.
He took 3, but none of that was on him. He took 3 steps back and was either getting hit or desperately trying to unload the ball somewhere. I can't blame him for any of this, really.
Incrementally better. He's still, again, rated 31 out of 32 starting quarterbacks on Pro Football Focus. Now, I am worried about Kenny Pickett. You're welcome to weigh in at 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. I know we're on in Pennsylvania. We're on in Western Pennsylvania. I'd love to get the thoughts of some Steeler fans, and Steeler fans are all over the country and all over the world, frankly, about how they're feeling 2 games into this season, which has massive expectations on it, or the expectations, I would say, grew through the offseason because of those preseason games, which could be fool's gold, we know. Anyway, I'm also very concerned about Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, for a much different reason, somebody who should be a top-tier quarterback, someone who's being paid like an elite quarterback, was very pedestrian last night. A couple good throws here and there, but ultimately the strip sack at the end of the game that got returned for a touchdown by T.J. Watt ends up sealing the fate of the Cleveland Browns. Not what you want from Deshaun Watson.
And one thing, you notice he tries to make every play last forever. Like, he won't go down. He's impossible to tackle. So what happens when you do that is that you make yourself very vulnerable to fumbling the ball. But if he didn't do that, like, what would the Browns' offense be if Deshaun Watson wasn't running around? I don't know. Once Chubb went out, they were in a tough spot.
Yeah,
I'm not sticking up for Watson.
Jerome Ford, who actually came in and was fine, but I don't know if he's going to be able to carry the load. Maybe
felt like Watson, either he's not getting rid of the ball in time, he's missing reads, or he just has to make a play with his legs, which he used to do all the time, and he did a lot last night. But he makes himself very vulnerable to fumbling it. Like,
it doesn't have the same oomph that it did back in
what's a new offense
2019 or whatever the last time we saw Deshaun be really good.
I think that was the Bill O'Brien offense or then the Gary Kubiak offense. This is Kevin Stefanski, and it's just doesn't look natural at all. Does he look comfortable to you at all? He'll have a throw, like, as you mentioned, or a throw here or there.
He's still got a super strong arm.
It doesn't look like he really wants to go anywhere with the ball or knows where to go with the ball. That Chubb injury killed him, too. I think they probably win that game if Chubb started out really great. I know Ford was awesome, too, but Chubb looked like he just owned the Steelers from the first moment of the game.
Yeah, Chubb was excellent. I mean, I feel very fortunate that I didn't see exactly what happened on the play, and I've been able to avoid every replay now, and I don't want to watch that and see that. Everything changed with that. And
yeah, it's funny. I'll see it on Twitter, and I will not click on it.
No, I don't want to see it. I feel terrible for the guy, and he was on his way to having a fantastic game, and you had to think fantastic season. Both teams, that'd be just atrocious on third down. The Steelers 4 for 14 on third down, just could not keep plays alive. And the Browns were much better. They were 5 for 16. Like, no one could sustain a drive. You want to say kudos to the defense is good, but I don't think it was all because the defenses were awesome.
Yeah, I do.
So many miscues.
Yes, I think these are two real serious defenses. I think the Highsmith-Watt combo.
Yeah.
By the way, that's why I'm not totally abandoning the Steelers as a Super Bowl hopeful, because, Micah Parsons, definitely the MVP in the NFC. TJ Watt is sure looking like the most valuable player in the AFC. Can Watt and Highsmith just torture everybody and win a bunch of games? They have an easier schedule coming up. The whole AFC North is falling apart. There is a lane.
The Ravens are good.
Are they?
I think they are.
I don't know.
They have a lot of injuries right now that they're overcoming. I mean,
week 1 was a nothing game. They beat the Texans.
They beat the Texans. You don't know much.
But week 2, they jumped all over Cincinnati. Then Cincinnati finally woke up in the second half and looked like the better team. I don't think we know anything about the Ravens. And if they keep getting injured at this rate...
Well, it's going to be Lamar and John Harbaugh and nobody, like the mascot.
Maggie, you're going to be lining up at slot receiver for this team. So,
I better start doing some crunches.
But I do think Cleveland is down because Deshaun is not what we thought he'd be. And I think Cincinnati's way down. If Joe Burrow sits out this week, they're 0-3. So I think the Steelers can hang around with just TJ Watt causing havoc. Yeah. Just those two guys just out there, run around. I mean, TJ Watt murdered the Niners, and the Niners were up by 3 touchdowns, and they still couldn't block him. So I'm at least hoping that Matt Canada decides to run the ball more. He puts Kenny Pickett in a better situation, gets conservative, lets the defense win. And that's Tomlin's job, right, to say to the offensive coordinator, stop calling these crap plays.
Well, here was Mike Tomlin. Let's hear it, Stu. Responding to the fans who were chanting to fire Matt Canada.
Man, we don't run from challenges. We run to challenges. This is the sport entertainment business. It is our job to win and thus entertain them. And so, we don't begrudge them for that. We want them to be fat and sassy and spoiled. It is our job.
Fat, sassy, and spoiled is the new, faith family football or whatever. Yeah. Live, laugh, love.
We want them to be fat and sassy and spoiled.
I want that, when people hang up signs in their house, bless this house or, whatever. I want fat, sassy, and spoiled.
We want them to be fat and sassy and spoiled.
Or what's the mat? A welcome mat? On your front stoop? Welcome. We're fat, sassy, and spoiled.
We want them to be fat and sassy and spoiled.
It's like a status more than it's what's your status today? Well, I'm fat, sassy, and spoiled. That's how I'm feeling. Yes, queen. That will replace the new yes, queen. How you doing? Fat, sassy, and spoiled. How are you doing?
We want them to be fat and sassy and spoiled.
Who's first to get that merch out? Is it better as a T-shirt, a bumper sticker? Where do you want fat, sassy, and spoiled? A throw pillow?
Question, what's he talking about?
Doesn't matter.
He's saying that people should not be upset with Matt Canada?
No, I think that he wants them to be satisfied is what he's saying, right? He wants them to not only win games, but he wants them to be entertained while doing it. Last night, not an entertaining game.
Oh,
yeah.
That can't be what he meant.
I think it is.
I think you're right, but that's idiotic.
Well, he's basically just trying to deflect the fact that the offense stinks.
I'm looking. Here are the last 5 offensive coordinators for the Steelers. Bruce Arians, 55-25, awesome. Todd Haley, 61-35, awesome. Randy Fichtner, not as good, fired in 2020, 29-18, and now Matt Canada's 18-16.
Well, they did go through a major transition from a franchise quarterback who had been there for almost 20 years to a new guy, but
I don't know.
Has to weigh in, doesn't it?
I don't know, though. I feel like, you used to talk about Bruce Arians and Todd Haley. These are guys, Randy Fichtner, I don't know much about. But I'm just saying that they had like great offensive coaches forever. I think Arians was a big part of Big Ben's success. I mean, that's not a controversial statement. Who is this guy?
I think Roethlisberger was upset when Arians got fired.
Who is this? Who's Matt Canada? Why?
Why is this so precious? Why are we worried about Matt Canada's feelings?
Yeah.
I know this is up to Tomlin. And listen, this has happened before, most notably with your Eagles. Remember the first year with Jalen Hurts? The whole fan base and everyone was clamoring for them to run the ball. And then midseason they did. They started listening to the fans. They started running the ball. They made the playoffs.
Well, they switched play callers too, which was great. But there's Tomlin's not going to call the plays. There's no one to switch play calls. So anyway, bottom line, I think it's not the quarterback. Kenny Pickett, for a guy with small hands, can throw that football. He has some really nice throws for what it's worth.
Yeah,
and I know
to the sideline.
I know Troy Aikman can't stand him, but Troy Aikman, anybody short of Patrick Mahomes, Troy Aikman's going to shred all day long, which is funny because Troy Aikman only threw for about 140 yards a game.
You didn't have to back in those days.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him criticizing guys. Honestly, we'll see. Let's revisit this in a month.